Welcome to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, bringing you the right information right now to sculpt a more meaningful and memorable life of success. Join us each week to discover gems to help you grow your mental toughness, expand your will to win, and multiply your results. It's never been easier to learn what to do and how to do it to succeed at what you choose to do.
This is truly an experience you won't find anywhere else.
Now, here's your host, the Success Sculptor himself, Stephen Pierce.
Hey, this is Stephen Pierce, and I want to welcome you to episode number 8 of the Success Sculpting Show, where we're going to be talking about secret productivity hacks, increasing your productivity immediately. Listen, we're going to go over some rock star hacks, some hooks, and what I like to call wormholes to working a whole lot less, but at the same time, getting a whole lot more done. So listen, if you want to increase your productivity, and I mean really, really increase your productivity, then you definitely want to listen up. You want to pull out your tablets or whatever it is you use to take notes, because in today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to close that busy loop. You know what I'm talking about. You're busy, and you don't seem to be productive. So we're going to close that busy loop, and we're going to open up this amazing portal to outrageous levels of productivity. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, it's going to seem like we're going to another planet based on what it is you're going to get here, but we're going to still be here on Earth. My guest is Pete Williams. He's my wingman for today. And Pete is a true master at getting things done. Now, I know there's a lot of different books on being productive and getting things done, and there's all kinds of software, but let me tell you something. Pete is fully loaded. I mean, this guy is absolutely overflowing with all kinds of profit hacks and productivity hooks and what I like to look at as secret wormholes to helping you get more things done in a whole lot less time. And now, granted, if you were to see his full stash of shortcuts in how to be productive while other people are still working, you're resting and goofing off and having fun and enjoying your life. If you were to see everything he had in his stash, you will know there is just absolutely no way we're going to cover all of this in one episode of the Success Sculpting Show. But what I assure you is that we're going to cover some stuff that you'll be able to take away immediately and start using. But in addition to that, there is a 4-part video series that you'll be able to jump into and be able to build on what we're going to cover here. So what you'll want to do is go to successsculpting.com/hacks. That's successsculpting.com/hacks. Just make a note of that because you don't want to walk away from the show, because this show is going to really help you to jumpstart what's going to be covered over there. So listen, I want to get into this because this is the kind of stuff that will significantly change your life. Now, I'm sitting over here in Texas, and my wingman Pete, he's over there in Australia, and we are coming together today for you. So without any further delay, Pete, I want to thank you for being on the Success Sculpting Show, and I'm sure everybody has started to sit up and perk up because they're ready to find out, well, what are these hacks and these hooks and these work less wormholes I'm talking about?
Love it, man. Love it. How's things?
Things are awesome out here, man, and they're getting better as I start to use more of the hacks that you've introduced me to.
Love it. That's fantastic, man. Well, I'm looking forward to having a chat for a good bit of time with yourself and your audience and sharing as much information as I can.
Awesome. Well, let's just get into it. So one of the things that I know people are challenged with is, one, there's all kinds of technology from your mobile phones to your tablets and obviously your computers and your laptops. And then there's all these different apps that are supposed to help you to be productive. And there's all these different demands that are being placed on us, not just from our professional lives, but from our personal lives. And on top of that, we want to live our lives. We want to be productive, and we want to have that level of fulfillment that comes from not just having a busy, full day, but having a day where we've really accomplished some stuff. We've really made a significant impact on the people we care about and the people that we're looking to reach. But one of the things that seems to overwhelm people is, how in the world do we get all of this stuff done? And I know you have come up with some amazing ways to not be overwhelmed with the demands, but to really ride those demands like they're waves. So what I want you to do is just share with us, how do we get from this place of overwhelm and really start to tap into higher levels of productivity?
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely go in that rabbit hole for sure. And I think the real foundation thing people have to understand to be more productive, and it's not really spoken about too much, is this concept of core versus mechanics. So core versus mechanics, because so many people, if they actually break down what they're actually doing in their day, whether it's, online marketing, growing a business, communicating, consuming content, all the things we have to do to be successful entrepreneurs. A lot of the stuff, and the majority of stuff people are doing, are mechanical tasks that they add no value to. Now, to sort of give some more context to that, if you look at a whole bunch of things you're doing in your business, whether it's writing articles, creating videos, or even doing forum postings, a really good example, which we can talk through. There's a lot of those tasks and steps that are mechanical where you don't actually, as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, as the person who's adding value, are doing things where there's no value being added. And, we use forum posting as an example. I think it's a very, very clear way people can see this difference between core versus mechanics. So if we break down forum posting, the process to do forum posting in the traditional sense online, which, the reason we do forum posting is so we're market leaders, we're being proactive in the marketplace, we're adding content, we're being seen as someone who adds value and is knowledgeable. The general process is go to a forum that you want to be active in, spend 20 minutes trying to find 2 or 3 forum threads and conversations that you're knowledgeable about, that you can add value to, that you can add some experience and some advice into. And that, can take 20, 25 minutes. You get distracted by someone's rant about something pointless. You end up on Facebook or YouTube via a link, and it takes you 25, 30 minutes to try and find a thread. Then obviously at that point, you've got to read the thread and type up your response and make sure it's articulate and spelt correctly and has the right grammar and all that sort of stuff. And obviously you then submit that forum post and you move on. So generally for people to do forum posting, it's a 30 to 45 minute exercise just to get 2 or 3 threads added in. And if you're doing that every single day, that eats up a lot of everybody's time.
Right.
And that's sort of a big process people should be doing, but a lot of people don't because of the time suck that it is. It's not a productive use of time in the general sense.
Right.
But if you break down that process and actually look at it, what are the actual steps to do forum posting? Well, obviously the first step is to go and look in the forum for threads that are relative to your topic and your areas of expertise. That's the first step. The second step is obviously to think about and articulate your response to the thread, your addition, the value you add there. The final piece of that is to actually then, put that articulation into words on the screen in the forum and hit submit. That's a very sort of quick breakdown of the various steps that make up forum posting. But if you look at it, well, the only real value you add to that process is the middle step where you're articulating your answer. So one way you can actually get productive and use this core versus mechanical look at, the first and the last element is mechanical. Anybody can actually do that. If you have an outsourced team member, for example, they can go to the 4 or 5 forums you want to be active in every single day and search through those forums for the threads that relate to the keywords or topics you're an expert on and you can actually add value to. If they then send you the links of those 5 or 6 threads that they think you can add value to, that cuts out that first 35 minutes of wasted time trying to find value that you can add. Then all you need to do, in this example that I use, is record an audio of yourself responding to that thread. You open up the link, you read the forum post, you articulate your response in 30, 45 seconds in an audio file that you send back to your outsourcer, who can then transcribe that audio response into the forum thread, make it articulate, use the right grammar, make sure it's spelled correctly, and submit it for you. So you're still getting that market leadership positioning, you're still adding the value to that forum, to that post, to the community there, but all it's taken you in that example is 6 posts, a 45-second audio response to each one. It's 4 or 5 minutes worth of time to do forum posting as opposed to 45 or 50 minutes, the traditional way when you're doing the mechanical tasks yourself.
Well, so that's like shaving off 90% of the workload, but yet getting the same impact that you would have gotten in the first place.
Exactly. That's what it's all about, is just looking at the things you're doing in your business, whether it's online business or an offline business, and just saying, okay, what are the steps are really core that only I can do, that I can add value to, and which ones are just mechanical that I can use systems, tools, apps, like you mentioned before, or, obviously, if you want to get to that point, some team members to do for you, because a lot of mechanical stuff, there's no value being added. It just has to be done.
Right. Now, let me ask you a question. You mentioned some software, like, speaking into software. Are there certain programs you recommend if you're doing it on your computer, or you're using an iPhone or an Android or an iPad or anything like that?
on my iPhone, I use a great app called Say It Mail It. Say It Mail It, and it literally is a very, very simple app, but it's on my home screen. I use it that much, and you literally open up the app and you have a recording button. You hit record, and then as soon as you hit the stop button, it automatically opens up an email with that audio file attached to it. So, whether I'm doing sort of forum post responses or I'm standing in the line at the bank and thinking about a message I want to tell one of my outsourcers, rather than having to type up an email and spell it correctly and all that sort of stuff, which for me takes much more time than just talking, I open up Say It, Mail It, record my audio, hit send, and it shoots off straight away automatically.
And don't you use that for emails also when you're communicating with people?
Yeah, I use that for email all the time. That's one of the biggest things I do is use that for email. On my Mac, I'm a Mac user. I use a great little application called Extra Voice Recorder, which is a little app that sits in your menu bar at the top of the screen, and it literally allows you to record audio files very quickly and then just drag and drop it anywhere you want. So again, for this forum posting example, my team will send me an email with 5 or 6 links. I'll open them all up, read the thread, see which ones I can add value to, record my audio using Extra Voice Recorder, and then just drag those audio files into the email and hit send. Very, very simple, really low friction.
Yeah, and interesting because I remember I got an email from Tom Beal. He was like, "Well, Pete told me to send my email to you as an audio because chances are you'll open it and not delay our response because you'll listen to it immediately," which was true. So he sent me an email, and it was a voice message. And to me, it seemed to be even more personal. We know that when we email each other, it's personal, but that was even more personal. But let me make a quick point here because I don't want some people to get a little disoriented when we're talking about forum posting and we're talking about market leadership and adding value to communities and marketplaces. I think sometimes we can go to this default thinking that, oh, you're a business owner or you're an affiliate marketer or something like that. While that may be the case, listen, if you are running a business or you are working for somebody in any position in today's environment, we need to constantly make sure that we are invaluable in those positions. We need to become overqualified. So this doesn't just apply to the business owner or to the affiliate marketer. If you're in the customer support department, the customer service department, if you are at the front line of the business, you're a salesperson for a business, or you're an administrator, you can go online and use this. You can go to forums that can help people that could probably end up using your business's products or services and develop that same kind of value, because what ultimately happens is that whoever your boss is or whoever the leadership team is, they look at you and it's like, well, wait a second. Your reach goes beyond the conference room inside of that building. They see that your tentacles, for lack of a better phrase, reaches well beyond the corporate walls. You have a presence representing that company on these different forums and in these different places. So we want to make sure that as we're thinking about these methods of productivity, and a great example that you use in terms of the forums, don't box this in terms of, oh, I'm an author, or I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm a business owner, I'm a product creator, or I'm an affiliate marketer. This applies to anybody that is looking to increase the amount of value that they not only just provide to a marketplace, but they provide to the company that they serve. So I just wanted to make sure that point was thrown in, because some people may be like, well, I work for a restaurant in a certain capacity. Well, you can do the exact same thing. Isn't that true?
Yeah, absolutely. It all just comes down to what things are you doing right now where only you can add value. And that's the core stuff. That's the core things you need to be doing in your job, in your role, in your business, in whatever it is in your life. Whereas there's obviously a lot of stuff people are doing that are just mechanical and they're just not adding any value. So you want to try and eliminate the mechanical stuff. It's not about eliminating tasks in its entirety, because, again, I'm going to use like a marketing example here, but, there's people who obviously have read, the 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss, which is a great book.
Right.
But he sort of says like offshore and outsource everything, all your tasks, give the whole task away to people. And I think people have experienced that, whether it's, in a role in an accounting firm, they're trying to outsource a little bit of the accounting work and job to someone in India or the Philippines, or whether it's an internet marketer doing the same sort of thing. People have found, and you hear this all the time, the experience initially is when they offload a lot of stuff in the outsourcing type scenario, the quality of the work drops significantly because the person's doing everything. But really, if you actually break it down, you should only be leveraging the mechanical stuff where they can't really stuff it up or actually diminish the quality because it's just mechanical. The core element where it's unique, it's your voice, it's your integrity, that stuff you should always keep to yourself. It's just the mechanical stuff that's wrapped around those steps of the task that you can get leverage.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing to keep in mind is this is the kind of stuff that you can take into your boss and make a recommendation. It's like, hey, boss, or hey, manager, how about we look at doing it in this particular way? Let me give you an example. A really good friend of mine and client of mine, Chi-Chi, that lives up in the UK, she came to one of my training programs and I gave her something to do in her business. Now, she had her own business that she was doing part-time, but at the same time, she worked for a Fortune 100 company. And she went to her management team and gave them one of the things that I gave her to do. And as a result, she got a raise and a promotion. So what I'm saying here is that, listen, we're not going to be able to cover everything. So make sure that you do go over to successsculpting.com/hacks, get the 4-part videos series that's being released, as well as there's going to be all kinds of bonuses and stuff over there. But these different productivity hacks and these profit hacks that can help you to get more done as well as make more money can be shared with the people that are in your company. You come in and you become the hero. And as the hero, guess what? You're automatically overqualified for what it is you're doing. You can get bonuses, you can get promotions. So make sure that you are looking at this holistically. It's like, okay, how can I apply this to what it is I'm doing with your full-time business or your part-time business? Or hey, wait a second, how can I apply this to my work team for the company that I work for? How can I present this to the management team? Because today, every company is looking to extract the maximum amount of juice from what fruits they have to work within their business. And these are surefire methods to help you to get that done. So I'm just throwing this back out there because I want to make sure that your synapses connections are becoming new and expansive in terms of seeing how this can connect to what it is you're currently doing, as well as what it is you plan on doing. And let me say this one thing, and then we're going to go to Pete to get something else. I want you to think in terms of the business you may be working on, or the business idea that you have, or what it is you're considering to do, be it network marketing, affiliate marketing, direct mail, sales, you just name it. I want you to think about how much further ahead you can get and how much faster you can get further ahead if you start out doing it the right way. Many of us, hey, it's trial and error. We figure out how to be more productive from doing a whole bunch of things that are counterproductive. But what you have is an opportunity to start doing it the right way from the very beginning. Wouldn't that be true, Pete?
Yeah, I think it is. It's that having that clear outcome defined.
All right, so give us something else. Okay, we did the forums. We know we can go out there where there's communities of people that are having all these different conversations, and we can go in and at a fraction of the time demonstrate value from us as professionals or authors or product owners and creators, but we can create a great amount of value into a community, and we can do it like boom in a heartbeat. But what are some of the other things we can do to increase our profits or increase our productivity?
Yeah, well, a really cool productivity little app. I know sort of apps are something people really enjoy and they can take right away once listening to the show and actually start getting some of their time back, is a really cool little consumption hack. There's a fantastic app called eNounce. It's for the Mac and the PC. And what it allows you to do is actually play back video in up to 3 speed right in your browser. So I know so many people have to consume so much content for their job, for their side business, even just for their hobbies to a certain extent. There's so much video and consumption going on that, the human brain can have up to 3 times average speed worth of consumption without any lack or loss in the memory and the actual retention of the information. So this little app, it's great. It automatically pops up on your screen when you actually, a video is playing HTML or Flash, and it allows you to actually play it all back at 2 speed. I know people are starting to get into the habit with audiobooks and podcasts, playing stuff back at 2 speed, thanks to that button that's actually on the iPhone, which is brilliant. But I consume everything in 2 to 3 speed, and it kind of comes through with my passion and the way I speak, because I do speak a little quicker. But I really think that's just a really simple app that everyone should have on their computer. It's so cheap, so cost effective. And it allows them to actually get that consumption of video in half the time. So if you're watching half an hour of video a day, maybe you're watching some training material for your job or your business or some stuff that you put out, Stephen, it allows them to actually consume that in half the time and get to action quicker, which is what it's all about. The whole idea of being productive is not so you can actually consume more in a day and just have more knowledge, because knowledge isn't power. It's applied knowledge that's power.
Right.
And that's what it's all about, is getting to that application of information quicker.
Yeah, I want to mention two quick things about that. One is a question. What's the name of that app again? So we want to make sure everybody gets that app name.
MySpeedApp.com it's available at. So MySpeedApp.com.
Okay. And the other thing is, and this is really important, you touched on it, the brain is able to process a whole lot more information a whole lot faster, consciously as well as subconsciously. But also, I think people believe that if they're listening to an audio or they have a video playing in the background while they're working, that they're really knocking off two birds with one stone. I think they miss the fact that the majority of what's being played on that audio or that they're listening to from the video, they're not really getting. And the beauty of listening to audio faster or video faster at 2 to 3 times the speed is that it really kind of forces you to pay attention, so you're really getting almost everything that it is you want to get out of it at a fraction of the time, and you're walking away more productive with that information, as opposed to listening to 5 hours of audios throughout the day while you're multitasking, thinking you took it in, and there's this false sense of completion. The audios are finished, you're finished the work, and it's like, man, I went through that whole audio program, but not really. Would that be true, Pete?
Yeah, I think that is a very, very articulate, issue there that you brought up, is that so many people, they confuse activity with accomplishment. I think that's a great saying. I can't remember who originally said that, but people confuse activity with accomplishment. And just because you've got to the end of the audio doesn't mean you really actually accomplished the learning. And that's, I think, being able to play stuff at 2 speed, you can actually dedicate the focus time to that. And this is one of the things I talk about quite a bit, and we're definitely talking about it in depth in the video series, is this thing called core focus time. And I think this is a really big habit people have to have. It's, just make, to start with, 25-minute session every day at some point in your day where the only thing you do is very consciously focus on one core task. And this is sort of where you're adding value. You could argue that, consuming a piece of training material, if that's what you're doing and you're focusing on that core element for 25 minutes, you actually start seeing some huge productivity and output leaps. Because if you really think about it, most people, when they sit down to, do their job at their office or some work on their business, and they sit there for an hour in front of their laptop, 20 minutes of it is an email, 10 minutes is on Facebook, 15 is listening to a podcast, and they spend 10 minutes actually achieving something. But they think at the end of the day, well, hey, I did a whole bunch of stuff that sort of relates to my business. I'm moving forward. But you actually look at the results and you're not actually getting anywhere. You're sort of not achieving the same results for the effort you're putting in. And we talk about this quite a bit in the series and a lot of other stuff, that you really need to actually start having core focus time where you sit down before you even start for this 25 minutes, you set your timer and you say to yourself, okay, this is the one outcome I'm going to focus on to the exclusion of all else that has a clear outcome and a clear goal. I'm going to focus solely on that. And, it sounds really kind of fuzzy and wishy and woo-woo, but it's not more about just having that, positive constraint around yourself. You say, okay, this is all I'm going to do. It's a positive constraint. I'm going to move forward with just this and nothing else. And even if you just do one session a day, it's going to start that momentum for you, and you'll see the results, and then you'll start doing, 2 a day, 3 a day, and get really focused on what you need to be doing. And having that restriction of only doing core stuff, you actually start seeing very, very clearly what is mechanical that you don't have to actually do. Is adding no value to the business, is adding no value to your time, to your job, whatever it is. And you can see very, very clearly how you can actually offload that and leverage that. And I think that's a big key word in all of this as well, is leverage.
Yeah, and I think you just hit on something that is extraordinarily important, and it's that core focus time. And when I look at how do we become more excellent at what it is we do, and basically one of the things, of course, is we want to make sure that we are harnessing our focus. And the idea of that core focus time, while we can apply it in different areas, there's 3 specific areas that I highly recommend that people apply that in. One is your core focus of education, meaning you have this 25 or 30 minutes that is blocked to just learn, going back to the old Franklin sharpening the saw type of thing. It's like you can't be so busy wanting to be a basketball player that you're not improving your free throws or your dribbling and all the different things that are core to the game. So we want to make sure that we are sharpening that saw, for lack of a better phrase, in learning more and more. And the other thing is the execution. So we have that core focus of education time, and then we have that core focus of execution time, which is exactly what it is you were just saying. I'm going to get this done and this done. And while you're doing that, you're able to see, okay, this is mechanical, this is redundant. You know, I can leverage technology on this, or I can outsource this particular element, still get the same impact, but shaving off how much of my time is required to get it done. And then the other area is, and this is important, is core entertainment time. And that's important because we need to decompress from the day. We need to take the time to go and have some fun. Maybe it's your video games, or maybe it's going out and watching a movie, or whatever that time is where we just totally walk away from the learning, we walk away from the business, we walk away from the execution. And I would personally throw your core exercise time on there, the time that you focus to go in the gym to make sure that you have the energy and you have the vitality and you have that breath of life, if you will, to be able to enjoy your entertainment time, as well as have the energy and focus to deposit into your education time, as well as in your execution time. But that is important. I mean, regardless of how we divide it, making sure that we define, just like, hey, you have a dental appointment. They don't just say, well, show up when you can. No, this is now granted, they make us wait when we get there. It's like, why do you want me here at 5 if you're not going to see me till 5:30 anyway, right? But you have an appointment. And I think it really helps to understand, Pete, and correct me if I'm wrong, that core time that we're talking about is really setting an appointment for yourself. Yep. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. And I think this is something people aren't openly willing to do. They think that, oh, look, I'll just come home from the office tonight, I'll work on my business, or I'll go after lunch, I'll come back from lunch at my job, and I'll go work on the account for, ABC Incorporated. But they sort of then just don't have a real clear definition of what the outcome of that half hour is meant to be. And they kind of just get busy doing busy work and not actually being focused. So you're absolutely right. You need to have that real defined outcome before you sit down for these sort of CFT sessions. But the one thing you said there, which I think is so important, and people don't really relate this to productivity, is the decompression time, and actually decompress properly. Don't go to the movies and check your iPhone or your BlackBerry 3 times during the movie, because you're not completely decompressed.
Right,
what you need to do is, when you do something, do it fully. Play full out in everything. Don't play, 80%. And that includes your entertainment and your movie time. When you sit on the couch at home with your loved ones to decompress and chill out, watch the show, leave your laptop away, put your iPhone away, put your iPad away. And that actually helps you in your productivity, because you decompress, you re-energize. So when you do sit down for these business-related or success-related CFT sessions, these core focus time sessions, you're actually fully engaged, because you've rewarded yourself with a fully engaged relaxation session.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't want to be going to movies and you're sending your business emails from your cell phone. And to that point, when it comes to the whole entertainment time, one of the things you can do is you can get the people around you to cooperate with that. I'll have people that be like, oh, I called you. Well, I don't have my phone with me all the time. And when I'm working and if I'm doing something, like if I'm recording the podcast or I'm working on something, keep my phone on the vibrate, and I'll have it off the table so I'm not distracted by the phone lighting up like fireworks, and then I'm in this reaction mode, because you know how the brain is. Well, who's that calling? Well, what do they want? I wonder if it's urgent. I wonder if it's important. And next thing you know, you're off task. You start to get derailed. So we want to be in control. Put the phone away, turn off certain things, like turn off email, turn off Skype, turn off your instant message. And in those moments where you're focusing on specific work, get that done. If it's entertainment, get that stuff done. And then the people around you, if they know that, hey, you know what, between this time and that time, I'm doing X, and that's your do not disturb time, it'll really help to get people to cooperate with your schedule and be like, well, you know what, I need to get this in now, because I know at this hour, it's kind of like shut off time. If a store is closed at 9 and you try to go shop at 9:30, hey, ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. People know we better get to the store before they close. Because if they don't, they're not going to get what it is they want. So I'm saying we want to have that level of discipline and structure, not where it's so rigid that we're not flexible, but that it gives the level of structure that we need to have in our lives to be productive and to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a term that I refer to, and I didn't make the term up, but it's positive constraints. It's you're putting a constraint around yourself for positive reasons. And most people think about these sort of, restrictions and rules as negative sort of things, but I see them as very, very positive, because at the end of the day, when you put your head on the pillow at night, you can say to yourself, yeah, I actually was productive today. I actually got and achieved something. I wasn't just busy. I can clearly see I achieved stuff. I grew my business, I moved forward. And a lot of the time that is because of positive constraints you put around yourself. Turning your iPhone off, putting it in another room is a positive constraint. You're deliberately and consciously putting constraints around yourself, so the core focus time session you're going to have, or even the fun time, like, go to the movies, leave your phone in the car. Don't have to take it in with you, so you don't have that temptation. Remove those temptations. It's a positive thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're setting up your own personal laws or rules of engagement. It's like, I don't know if this ever happened to you before, but I'm sure it has at some point, where you're having a conversation with somebody, but they can't seem to keep their eye off of either their computer screen or their cell phone or something. So you're trying to engage in a conversation, but they seem to be disengaged because their monkey mind is basically jumping back and forth from one form of technology to the next. But if you set up rules of engagement, like if Pete and I are in the room together, and my rule of engagement is, if I'm having a conversation, I'm having that conversation. I'm not looking at my computer, I'm looking at that person. I'm not looking at my cell phone, I'm looking at that person. If I'm sitting at my computer, my rule of engagement is, when I check email, I check email. I don't allow myself to start going down these little surf holes where next thing you know, I'm an hour later, I'm like, how did I get on this site? It's like you have no idea how you got there. So I love the whole idea of the positive constraints, because we're setting up our rules of engagement and we're setting up the laws. Like, for example, if our military here in the U.S., now granted, whether they abide by their laws or not, who knows, but one of the rules of engagement is you can't fire first. Well, if their whole thing was, if the law was, if you see somebody that even looks like they're reaching for a gun, smoke them off, well, you know what? The world would be in a much worse place, because everybody was just shooting everybody because of what they thought was going to happen or what they thought the person had. So the rules of engagement are there to keep order as much as possible. And I think the way you put it, positive constraints, I mean, it lays out perfectly why we do that. Is not to constrict us and to bind us up and to prevent us from doing something. It's actually there to help us to be better at what it is we've decided we wanted to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, and by the way, again, there's just no way that we're going to be able to cover everything here with Pete. And this is not even, I could easily say, man, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But in all fairness, this isn't even the tip of the iceberg. This isn't even a sliver, for lack of a better word. I mean, we can go so deep into this. So I encourage you to go and be a part of the 4-part video series. Each video will be about 30 minutes. So some nice bite-sized chunks, and you can go over there by going to successsculpting.com/hacks. That's successsculpting.com/hacks, and there'll be some bonus stuff over there for you as well from Pete, but you'll really be able to get more of the meat from what Pete does to be more productive and to be more profitable, because he's run several companies successfully and just has a lot of amazing stuff. But before we wrap up, Pete, do you have one more nugget that you'll like to throw out there for everybody?
Yeah, I could definitely throw some more stuff out. We could talk all day, really.
I know.
I think the other thing is, I'm going to kind of take a bit more of a theory sort of foundational lesson type approach, rather than a physical, here's a tool to use. Because in those video series, we've got a whole bunch of one of the videos is actually going to be a 6-hour live stream where I actually get on screen for 6 hours and do a week's worth of work in those 6 hours, and using tools and processes and systems that people can come, watch, and immediately swipe and deploy in their own business and work and life. So,
all right, now hold on. I'm going to have to jump in here right now, because I know people listening to this, they're like, did he just misspeak? Did he just say he's going to do a week's worth of work in 6 hours live on a stream? Let me tell you something, everybody. That is for real. I mean, I've seen certain things that he's done at live events that would just blow your mind. So this is for real. If you want to pick up on some real-time productivity where it's not just somebody is telling you how to be productive, but they're showing you in real time how to be productive, you definitely want to be a part of that live stream. But I just wanted to say that because I know people are like, well, no, it's early in Australia right now, so he's probably got a foggy mind or something like that. No, it's for real.
Literally, I'm putting myself on the line, and people can literally see me for 6 hours do my work and literally just rip off the way I do it and replicate it themselves. I've done it before, and people have really loved it.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. All right, so I know I jumped in while you were saying that because I wanted to make sure everybody knew that you didn't misspeak. But all right, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, the accent, the Australian accent, can sometimes get confusing. But I was talking about a topic called leverage, and leverage. Everyone knows what it is, but a great saying that the great Dan Kennedy says is that you need to use every piece of the pig. And the whole idea of this is that, if you look at business owners or marketers and even people in their own job working in a marketing department or any sort of role you've got, even customer service department's a great example. I'll use that in a moment. Is they don't leverage everything. They don't leverage their outputs. They leverage their time, but they don't leverage their outputs. And what I mean by this is, if you're doing something in your business or in your job, how can you leverage and maximize that? A great example is, with hypothetically a podcast, if you're doing that as a way to market your business, is obviously you have the podcast going out as the core piece of material down through iTunes and different syndication platforms. But you could easily have someone outsource for very, very cheap in Philippines or India, create videos, slides to match the conversation of the podcast we've just had here and upload that to YouTube and Vimeo and Vidler. Because the core value people are going to get from watching a video is the conversation you and I have had here, or you've had with your listener, or whoever it might be. That not the actual slide transition that's chosen, or the font face, or even the graphics that we use in the video. Technically, that's all mechanics. Because if you think back to some of the best training material you've ever consumed, it's not because they used a hard cut transition or a Myriad Pro font face. It was the content. So the slides and the visuals of a video are actually mechanics. So you could easily leverage the audio of a podcast and have videos created. You can have someone take the transcription of the podcast episode and have an editor just write that transcription up and edit it down to a high quality standalone article that you could then use as a guest post. You could take that, reword that a little bit so it's unique, and use it as an article in an offline magazine to give you credibility and market leadership and obviously traffic generation. And that's a really, really quick example of how you can leverage an output, because so many people in marketing, if we look at the online space, what they'll do is they'll do a podcast, and that's great. They've invested an hour of their time in the podcast. They then go and invest another hour of their time trying to write a guest post. They'll then go and invest another 4 hours of their time trying to create a video, because they feel like they need to be out creating content for all these platforms across all this media and modalities. And that is true. You have to be everywhere these days on the web because you want to reach your audience where they want to be reached. But you don't have to redo new pieces of content all the time. You can do one core input like a podcast and leverage that output using systems and processes, because the core has been done. The core value of those articles that are being edited up from the transcript has been done when you did that original podcast, that hour investment. Right. Someone just editing up the transcript and making it articulate and making it refined is completely fine. It's still having your voice, still has your integrity. It's just been edited up and can be used other places. And that's sort of an example for an online marketer. But if you're looking at this from maybe you're in a customer service department of a business, well, obviously you're handling a lot of FAQ inquiries. Well, why aren't you actually, if you're having conversations with customers, recording those conversations, obviously letting the customer know, and then making those little conversations available on your website in your FAQ section? Maybe you're emailing people support tickets. Well, why don't your customer service team at the end of every single customer service support ticket look at the core issue the person had, look at the very well articulated response you've given an email, and then repurposing that into an FAQ website or knowledge base. So next time someone has to actually give that response, it's a cut and a paste. It's not having to write out that 20-minute response. It's like, wow, we've already got one here, because you've leveraged the output last time that question was asked. And this is the sort of stuff we talk about quite a bit, is about how can you take everything you do and leverage that to maximum efficiency. And that's really productivity in a different sense that people don't normally talk about. They normally talk about productivity and doing the task quicker. And that is definitely one form of productivity. But if you can eliminate the need to write articles and create videos because you're leveraging the output of the original podcast, that's massive productivity gains.
Yeah, so you're boosting productivity on the front end and on the back end.
Yeah, and I think that the back end part of productivity is very rarely spoken about, and really that's where you can get the most bang for your buck and the most leverage.
Now, you're going to give us a demonstration of that during your live stream?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to show the forum posting example. I'm going to do some forum posting live on the show. We're going to create a podcast episode live on the show. And then during that 6 hours, by the time the 6-hour live stream ends, we'll have the podcast up. We'll have the video on YouTube. There'll be articles. There'll be guest posts already written by a very, very small, very, very cost-effective team. And this is the thing, is that I am going to do this entire, 40 hours worth of what a normal online marketer or business owner would do in 6 hours with a budget of under $400.
All right. Now, I know that has to get everybody a little salivating a little bit. So listen, Pete, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Success Sculpting Show. And I know everybody that's listened to this, they've enjoyed it. And you know that this is really, really just a peek inside the door of being more productive and being more profitable, regardless of what the position is you hold as a business owner or a supporter of another company or a corporation. So here's what I want you to do. If you want to be a part of this, then you want to go over to successsculpting.com/hacks and get the 4-part video series. And then by being over there, you'll get the announcement on when the live stream is going to happen with Pete himself, and you'll be able to see all of this in action. And again, as Pete said, just swipe from him what it is he's doing and instantaneously become more productive. So be sure to go over to successsculpting.com/hacks. Get that 4-part video series, which is free, and then be a part of the free live stream. Your life will be more productive as a result. So, Pete, again, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Success Sculpting Show. And for all of you all that are listening, be sure that you join us for episode number 9. Why? Well, because all of us are looking to get up from where it is we are. Not that we're really, really down, but we just want to get up. But one thing that I've realized in my life is that it's hard to get up when what you're grabbing is holding you down. So what we're going to be talking about in episode 9 is how to free your mind. But until then, be sure to go over to successsculpting.com/hacks and get a hold of some of the profit hacks and productivity hacks from Pete Williams. And Pete, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of the Success Sculpting Show. And everybody else, I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce.
If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address.
SuccessSculptingShow.com to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archives of previous podcasts and check the schedule to join us for our next live streaming Success Sculpting Show webcast. This has been a Success Sculpting Incorporated production. Join us next time for another edition of the Success Sculpting Show with Stephen Pierce, and tell your friends.